So when Jesus was about 30, he started traveling all around the country, telling people what it's like when God's in control, the kingdom of God. And wherever he went, he healed people. So people heard about this and they started coming from all over to see him. And no matter what they were suffering from, whether they were sick or paralyzed or had epilepsy or were filled with evil spirits, no matter what, Jesus healed them. So these huge crowds of people started following Jesus around no matter where he went. And he took advantage of this to stop and to teach them. And when he taught them, he usually used stories. In fact, he hardly ever taught people without using stories. So this is one of them. Jesus said, when God's in control, the kingdom of God, it's like a farmer that goes out and sows really nice, really good seed, wheat seed, in his fields. And then he goes home and he goes to sleep, and all of his servants are sleeping. And while they're asleep, an enemy of the farmer comes in and sows all these bad, nasty weeds in that same field. So after a little time passes, the good wheat starts growing up, but also all these nasty weeds start growing up too. And so the farmer's servants, they go to him and they're like, look, we know you planted really nice, good wheat in your field, but all these weeds are growing up in there too. Do you want us to rip them out and get rid of them? But the farmer said, no, don't do that, because if you rip out the bad weeds, you might harm the good wheat while you're doing it. Just wait till harvest time. And then at harvest time, I'll send my harvesters out, and they'll rip out all the bad weeds, and they'll throw them into a fire. They'll burn them up. But the good wheat, they'll bring that into my barn. So later that day, Jesus had finished teaching, and some of his closest friends went with him to this house. And they're like, Jesus, could you explain that story to us about the farmer and the wheat? And Jesus is like, sure. I'm like the farmer who planted the good wheat in his field. Just like that, I planted good, obedient people here in the world. But Satan came and he planted evil. And just like in the story where the harvesters come and they rip up all of the weeds and throw it into the fire, well, that's what it's going to be like at the end of the world. I'm going to send my spirit messengers, and they're going to gather up all the disobedient people and put them in a fire. But the good people, the obedient people, the ones that belong to God, they're going to shine like the sun in God's kingdom.